Welcome to Think Smart with TMFG. I'm Mike Connon. This is John Iaconetti, Senior Financial Planner with the McClelland Financial Group of Assante Capital Management. So today what we're going to do is we're going to start, a big question we get a lot of the time is renting versus owning. What should you do with your home? Do you get this question a lot?
Yeah, we get it often, and it's one of those that's, regardless how old you are, some people have that thought where, more younger Canadians are thinking about home ownership, but we have a lot of older clients as well that are kind of debating the pros and cons between both renting or owning.
Yeah, there's no right answer, right?
Yeah,
So this is one of these
exactly.
difficult ones where you can't say, okay, this is what you should absolutely do, because they have a lot of different factors involved in. Life is about factors, as we've learned, so we have to take all those into consideration. So why is real estate a good investment, do you think?
Well, real estate is a good investment for a couple different reasons. Like, let's just think, over the long term, it has shown there's been a steady degree of growth in the real estate market, not only in the GTA, but, even outside or outer skirts areas.
Pretty stable. When you talk to people, they say, the one thing I can count on is real estate over time is there, and I can also go see it.
Yeah, it's a tangible asset.
It's not the stock that's out in the middle of the internet somewhere. It's actually there.
Yeah, and over time it has been considered to be inflation protected. Like you mentioned, it's growing over time, but at the same rate or exceeding that rate of inflation. And then in Canada too, you also get the huge benefit of the tax treatment. Right, a principal residence is going to be not susceptible to capital gains.
And we forget how important that is because tax-free savings accounts are this great thing. They're almost simpler to a principal residence, but you're limited to doing $7,000 a year.
Yeah,
your principal residence can be quite a few $1 million. Some people have $10 million principal residence, so they're getting exemptions from their principal residence. I don't know if that's right how it is, but that's how it's set up. If you whatever your house is worth, you can actually shelter that much from growth.
Yeah. And on top of that, too, you mentioned it before, if you have a house that's worth $10 million, you have the access to debt, right? You have the access to leverage the value of your home in order to take out a loan or that's much more secured than those who that don't have that asset. It's tougher to get a loan.
Yeah, most people's returns, they forget about the leverage fact. They say, you put your percentage down in a house and then it grows. But in Canada, you need 10% down or 20% down, I guess, in that range. There's no other investment where you're going to put 20% down and the banks are going to back you up. It also gives you easy leverage. Whenever you go to borrow money, the bank always wants to know what real estate you have because that's basically the most secure thing they want to go and collateralize your loans against.
Yeah.
So let's go and take a look at the math. So we've established real estate has some good points to it, but let's not get out of hand with it. Let's take a look and see. We'll do some math. The net return of a property in the GTA is about, if you go to rent a property, and, I do this with clients all the time, and every time I go through and you take the rent minus the expenses and what type of return you receive off it, it's somewhere around the 1.5% range. It can be down at 1, maybe up to 3 in an exception in the GTA area. Plus the capital appreciation, right?
Yeah.
Plus you're going to get the capital growth on that. Real estate is going to follow the rate of inflation adjusted by interest rates and demand. So what I mean by that is if you look at the price of real estate and where it's going to go, you have X amount of your income you can afford to put toward real estate.
Yeah.
That's not going to change for your rent or whatever your cost of housing is. Over time, that's going to go and adjust itself with people's incomes, right? It's not all of a sudden you can afford to pay 70% of your income in real estate. That's not going to make sense. So real estate's going to follow, number one, why we've seen the real estate run in the last decade is for the beginning of the decade, we saw interest rates
continue to drop.
Dramatically. And what that does, it made real estate more affordable, which brought the price up on real estate to compensate for that.
Yeah.
The other thing that happens is demand in the area. Toronto is a great place to live and has been becoming a better place to live. And we have a lot of immigration over the last decade, probably a decade and a half to 2 decades coming in. And that creates more of a demand in the GT area, which again creates higher prices. But remember, when things like that happen, they self-correct themselves.
Yeah.
So as the real estate prices get higher in Toronto, less people can afford to move to Toronto, which starts to limit the demand over there. So people have this idea that this real estate run that we've had in the last decade or 2 decades is going to continue indefinitely. It's really impossible. So at a certain stage, it has to normalize itself in there. So again, that's what we had, the perfect storm. Real estate price in the last decade, lowering interest rates, increased demand. That's been what created this big move in the marketplace.
Yeah.
The other thing is price in real estate is very difficult because it's not liquid, right?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
it's very tough. You always hear, it was funny, I went to, this is an example I always thought, I went to buy a plow yesterday, right, for my driveway. I have new house. I was talking about real estate. I need to get something getting ready for the winter, although it doesn't feel like winter right now. And it was funny. It was a used plow, and it was the guy had it listed $35.50. So I went over to look at it, and I looked at it. It was a bit more used than I thought, or the Facebook ad had.
Of course.
So I offered him $2,800, and immediately he goes, no, it's not worth that, right? Later on that night, I get something that came in that said he sold it to a farmer for $3,000. And it's funny where you get where the prices are.
Yeah.
The price was not established when he said what the plow was worth.
Of course.
Because there was not a sale. That was what he thought it was worth. I went to go and buy the plow. I told him what I thought it was worth. The price is still not established, right? We still don't know what the price is.
Yeah.
Once he sold it for the $3,000, we now know what that price is.
Exactly.
So obviously, I was a bit wrong. I was a bit too low because someone was willing to pay more than me, and he was a larger amount too high because he thought he could get a certain amount.
Yep.
And then it came down to what the price is. And real estate has a bit of that in it. It's not like
It
a
is,
stock market that trades second by second. The real estate market trades when sales happen. So that's the more difficult part about real estate. Let's talk about age groups.
Yeah.
So I've just tried to make this as simple as possible. So I went into 3 different age groups. So we'll start at the first one. I'll go 18 to 30.
Yeah.
And I mean, 18 is probably young on the age group, and 30 is
Especially
probably
in the
getting to the next age group. But let's talk about that age group.
Yeah, and I feel like this age group in particular does have that need or feels the need in order to own a property in the GTA. And partly that could be due to the fact of, they've seen the success that their parents may have had or grandparents may have had owning real estate. You talked about it. There's been an absolute boom in the real estate market in the last 20 years. So they have the expectation that, real estate's right for me because I'll be getting that same effect really 20 years down the road, which may or may not be correct, but it feels like it's
number one thing I hear from parents wanting their kids to buy real estate. Well, if they don't get in, they'll never be able to afford it because it's going so high. I just want to get their foot in the door because if they don't get in now, they'll never be able to afford real estate. That's a bit of a misnomer in there because things do have to normalize themselves.
It is. And on top of that, too, there's a lot of expenses that come along with owning real estate, and that can trigger we always use the term house poor. That could trigger that for a lot of people that are in that age group, when in reality, they may not know where their life path is going to be taking them to. You might be able to find a job out of province or out of country, and suddenly this asset that you have doesn't really suit you that well. And, to own a home, to expect it for capital appreciation, it's probably not the best way to do it. You got to own a home because you know you're going to be staying there for a while. You need some degree of stability. Where in this age group, you may not fully have that, so it may not be worth it to own a home.
What I tell people to do in that age group is I always refer to it as a virtual home. So when you decide you're thinking about buying a home, what you should do is find out the price of the home you're going to buy and figure out how much you have down. Figure what your mortgage payment's going to be. Figure what your tax is going to be. Figure what your expense is going to be. Throw 1% of the value of the home for repairs.
Yep.
Add that onto it and see what that comes out to be on a monthly basis. Then take that amount and put it into a money market vehicle just for the first year and a half before you make that decision. And if you're paying rent, you take, how much that would be. Let's say it was $5,000 a month and you're paying $2,000 a month. You say $3,000 a month is going to go into this money market vehicle. It's not involved in the markets or anything, but it's going to show you what it's like to live in that home.
Yeah.
And for the first year and a half, see if you enjoy your life. Because if you don't, it may not be a good decision.
Yeah.
So find out before you actually make the commitment.
Yeah, and that's a great practice just to even fully understand or grasp, whether it's even affordable. A lot of people just don't have the full concept of what the total cost of owning a home may be. So like you said, you might find yourself setting aside all this money and realize, well, I still need to eat food and I still need to go out, and suddenly it doesn't become a good option for you. But what about the next level? What about the next age group?
I put this one a big one, 30 to 70. So we have a big span here.
Yeah.
These are your family years, right?
Yeah.
And I think home ownership is a great thing during this time. I really do. Because the thing that it has is home ownership has a certainty to it. It's a home.
Yeah.
It's a thing where when you're raising kids and a family, it's a place that they can call their home.
Yeah.
It's something that you have that you can continue to improve upon, make your own, and give yourself a great just a great experience.
Yeah.
It's also now more affordable. Usually your incomes have increased. One thing we talked about before, if we go back to that previous age group, a lot of times people were single trying to buy homes too.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah.
Which is a very difficult thing to do. If we get into the 30s and 70s, some of the people will have started their family route. And now you have either dual incomes or you have higher salaries that are going to make this more affordable. It's great for, as we said, stability in the family. Also, you have a principal residence exemption that we talked about beforehand.
Yep.
And in this age group, you have a long time period too. So this is compounding growth of the increase in value that you're not going to pay tax on. So it's a very good time to own a home.
Yeah.
I see financial numbers say sometimes it makes more sense to rent than buy in this time, but I think there's a lot of other factors that make it so it's a good idea to own a home during this time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just for the sole fact, like you said, for a family, the stability aspect of knowing that this is your property, you'll be here for the next 20, 30 years. What doesn't get talked about often with renting is very well the landlord can come in and say, hey, this is my property. I'm going to need you to move out. And that's a tough thing to do for a homeowner.
I rented for a period of time, and both instances, the landlord came in and said, I'm moving my family back in the house. Usually when you're in a good rental situation, usually they realize, okay, this is too good.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to flip this back. I know it's not quite legal, but
Yeah.
they put family members into it or whatever they do, and all of a sudden you have to uproot your whole life in the middle of it.
Yeah.
So you've saved some money, but you've really created a lot of chaos in your life.
Absolutely. Yeah. But what about the next phase? Because now we went from 30 to 70. So what about after 70?
So I'm going to say after 70. This could be after 75 in that range. These poster, let's say, mobile in here. But once you're in that range, it's nice to own a home. You still have that advantage of the stability and everything there. But the problem is your life is going to change over the next 15 years.
Yeah.
Usually 70-year-olds are pretty good. A lot of 80-year-olds is still pretty good too. But when we get up to that 85 year of age, all of a sudden things start to change around.
Yeah.
Medically, what they want to do, the effort they want to put into things. You don't see 80-year-olds that want to do a renovation on their house and make things new. They're just trying to get by. So again, this is a time where you have to be a bit more careful.
Yeah.
From the financial point of view, it's still okay, same as before, but now we don't have the longevity of the let's say principal residence.
Yeah.
It's still tax free, but we're not looking tax free over 30 or 40 years now. We're over a shorter period of time. Also, illiquidity makes estates very difficult.
Yeah.
Real estate as a part of an estate is a difficult thing for family members to take care of. The other thing I find is when circumstances change. So let's say someone falls, you have a couple, they're 86 years old, someone falls, if they break a hip and they need to go to a different care level. Now it gets very difficult because one person's in a house that you have to maintain, and you have to pay for the care level on the other side. So now you maintain two residences, which gets very expensive.
Yeah.
And also if people have to go and make that move to, let's say, a independent living facility, it's a tougher decision to do rather than give your last month's check. Now you have to have a health sale done.
Yeah.
And if it's being done by your family members rather than yourself, it's a very difficult thing for them to actually have to go and sell a house to at that period of time.
Yeah, we run into the scenario of a lot of people, and rightfully so. I mean, you've lived in this house probably for 20, 30 years, and when it comes time to realize that maybe the house isn't a good, suitable spot for you, maybe health has changed, maybe your mobility has changed, you're not able to keep up with maintenance and the landscaping. Usually we have that conversation. It is a tough conversation, but maybe moving into a retirement home or something along those lines might be a better suited option. Because it is financially for the estate, for your life, and for your well-being. Usually, you're going to get to that point where it's going to be a good option. Now, making that decision is easier said than done.
It's funny. We sit in meetings, and when we look at the finances behind it, the finances aren't that much difference.
Yeah.
Right. When you go and look at renting versus owning, it doesn't make too much of a difference at that stage. It's more simplicity than finances.
Exactly.
So, what do we learn from this?
Well, we know that real estate can be a great investment and it can provide security for a young family, but also at the same token, the illiquid nature of real estate can provide problems later on in life. So home ownership is a great thing, but at the same time, depending on your situation, it could be a bad thing for you. So it all does depend on where you fall on that spectrum.
Perfect. Anytime anyone would like to talk, just give us a call and we'd be more than willing to discuss it with you. Well, that brings us to the end of another episode of Think Smart with TMFG. Thank you very much and have a great day.